My name is Alain Dominique Gallizia. Maybe you don't know me. First time I stay in Singapore, not the last and surely not the least, because I'm in love by your way of life, the mix of your culture, so dynamic. In Europe now we are a little down, but so I'm the curator of this exhibition. And also this exhibition is a part of my collection. In fact, in this collection and in this exhibition, you have 3 or 4 different parts. The first one that you can see at the entrance of this exhibition, firstly I have to say to you, you have all discovered that I'm froggy, so I don't speak enough English, so I have a nice translator, Joe, who works for Pinacothèque, and I'm very happy to be with Zero, you know. Him is a star, as a little froggy. So, at the entrance of this exhibition, you can see a collection of vintage paintings, American graffiti artists, the first between the 70s until the 90s. So the beginning of a story with the different steps between letter, signature, figure, logo, figuration, abstraction, and crazy creation with Ramelzi. Here you are in the Love collection. Rear of me there is a vertical collection, which is a private collection. This Love collection is not really a private collection. Is an agreement found with artists because I met them and we decided to make a common project. They accept to make for me a painting on canvas with the same size and the same subject. On the left part, the name of the artist, so you can read easily Shu, Lazu, Gong. And the right part, a free subject about love. Love can be a stupid idea for them. But first, we are not very happy, and only they find, and discuss with Zero, it's a good idea because nobody has worked before on this subject. So it's fight equity harms. And so this collection is important because after having the first French guy, I have the most important French and European and American, and the idea is to take always this collection alive. And to, in this agreement, the artist trusts me when I say I accept your work, I protect it. I take care of it, and I do my best to show it in the best museum in all the world, because your art and your talent has to be recognized. So today we're in Singapore. Is the first step of our internalization. The only country out of France was Monaco. Maybe you know Monaco is not too far. It's more easy to go in Monaco, walking that until Singapore. So the first step is Singapore. I'm very happy to be in this part of the world. I did not know it before. And in this country, you have a very strong team of graffiti artists. And the idea is each time, at each step, to ask to the best graffiti artist from the country which accept, and we are very proud, to receive us, to enter into this collection and to make 2 or 3 paintings. So now, on the right part in front of you, you can see the 3 paintings. In the mid, all this wall is the Asia and Indonesia part. It's just a little part of a collection. In the collection, Love collection, we have quite 400 paintings. On this wall, you have Europe, and you can see the difference between each country, in this art, each country contributes to the quality, international quality, instead of the opposite of rock and roll, which was the last international culture, and always, most of the time, better in America or in England than in Argentina. So you have Europe part, the American part, and here the Asian part with Hans at the middle on your right. You have at the left Darbots from Indonesia, and in the middle you have Hans. Surely you know Hans from Singapore, and down Dal from China. You know the earth is not very easy to be in love in China. In the middle, at the top, you have Gong from Thailand, and Axel face, Alex face. I don't know why I'm not able to remember the answer. Always I say art face, because we have a lot of art face, Axel face in the collection. So his name is Alex face. From Singapore, no, from Thailand, sorry. And at the low level, you have Trace One from Singapore with a B and all the love. So I think it corresponds exactly what does I want with left part, the name of somebody, and the right part, something true, free about love. And on the left part, at the top and bottom, you have two Japanese artists. And in the middle, you have the wonderful artist, which is near of me, Zero, if you can talk about it.
Actually, my painting is my take on love. So if you really want to find out what it says, it's actually done in like a sign language alphabets. So you can take your time to Google it and find out what it means, you know. So I don't need to explain to you. So you find out what it means, so it makes sense to you. So that gives that interaction with whoever looks at it, because it's not done in a very literal way. And I think also some of the hand signs, as you can see, are actually quite suggestive of, you know, sexual gestures, you know, like that. You know, it's quite sexual to some extent. So the idea of love. Ah, okay.
You can. Yes, more easy for us.
Okay, so it's pretty much, you know, later on somebody will have to Google and tell me what this word is and what this word is. You won't get a prize, but, you know, you get better understanding of the work. So, and you can see a lot of, these are all like hand signs. So the hand signs, some of the hand signs have very sexual connotations, or even it looks sexual to an extent. And I'm using that as part of my interpretation of love. And, you know, and yep. And I like to paint figurative figures. When I started doing graffiti, it was figurative, and also tagging, you know, on the streets of Singapore. You know, in spite of it being a very, very clean and strict country, I started my practice on the streets. You know, to take away some of the sensitivity of the word illegal, I use non-commissioned pieces on the streets because none of them are commissioned. And yeah, I think back then it was much easier for myself and some of my peers from the other crews like ZNC, OAC, some of the pioneering crews in the graffiti art scene in Singapore, to actually do works on the streets without getting caught by the police or by the authorities. For us, it was just expressing ourselves using the street or wall or public surface as a canvas. You know, no young artist would straight away start an artistic practice and imagine himself to be in a gallery as such or a museum like this. You know, so we made, I think a lot of the graffiti artists made their own spaces, you know, the urban spaces as their, you know, canvas, as their public gallery. I think that gives access of our works to all of you here. You know, anyone from New York to Paris, they see, you know, the works on the streets first, and it becomes their public gallery. And I think that's a lot of the legends here, from Futura to Toxic. They got their names up through their works on the streets. I think it's the same case for what I do here in Singapore. It was just on the streets until someday somebody emailed us. I do not know how they got our email, and we thought we were going to get caught. So we didn't reply for a few days, and I think it's an email from the Singapore Arts Museum. You know, we never left we just put our tag names there, and they just emailed us and said. Then me and my first collective back then, Artivists, was like, oh shit, you know, they found out about us. How did they find out about us? You know, but you know, they just wanted us to do to be part of an exhibition, and I think that was the first time we did an exhibition. We were not even part of the exhibition per se, but we were in the exhibition as intervention artists. I guess that's what we do best. We went to the galleries, we looked at all the existing artworks. Back then it was a contemporary art exhibition, and we kind of, you know, basically destroyed the gallery. I think that's why that was the last time they had intervention artists in the gallery, in the Singapore Arts Museum. We were just told to react to the artworks in the gallery, and some of my friends, we went in, we had like big throw-ups on the side of a painting or a sculpture just to react to the space. I think it horrified them because people were going, looking at the collection, and then we were like, you know, a gas mask, and they were like spray painting in the middle of, you know, imagine painting now here while you're like walking around. So I think that was the first and the only time they had it. Yeah. And I think, yep, I think back to the topic today here is graffiti art, you know.
Yes, I have forgotten to say, sure you know that we are completely against the vandalism in the street. Yes, I've made a big exhibition in Monaco. I'm sure Monaco and Singapore exactly the same level to accept the graffiti into the streets. I've never seen just one tag in Monaco, because before you just open your bag, you're in jail. There is camera everywhere. So it's true or not true to consider that the canvas is and gallery is a new place for the graffiti. I always remember that the artists themselves, the 7 of the most important artists of origin, all from Puerto Rico, because we never talk about fact the color, the energy came from the south of America, south of Africa, and it was a figurative and very energetic art, and not always understood by the first American people. But in '72, Phase 2, Coco, Flint, Snake created the UGA, United Graffiti Artists. And this association just wanted to put the graffiti on canvas into galleries to be seen, and also for the dual, because this art is a bottle art. The artist has not only to be a good artist, he has to be the best. So he loves a lot to be compared. And for them, the train, the railways, tickets always said, for me, the train is an open sky gallery. In a gallery, you can compare 2 canvases. And surely when you speak about gallery, it's better to speak about associative gallery because between 72 until 83, there were just 10, 12 big exhibitions, always in associative gallery. Fashion, Moda, City College, Razor Gallery, until 83. So it's wrong to think that they just go now in the gallery on canvas because some stupid company wants to put his work on the shoes, on the T-shirt. No, it's not true. And all the artists we speak about, tax, etc., when you speak with them, they were the first happy to be in a gallery. And now they are the first to ask me pictures. This morning I was making pictures of all the painting into the exhibition because they want it immediately. Because also it's the same way to be sure of our rank, of our level. When we are in the gallery, very important gallery, it means that you are the best. And always it's a battle. So I consider on canvas it's not the same job. And a lot of artists like Israel Wiz were not able to make a good canvas. Some other guy like Blade, the famous legend on the train, was not very able to make a canvas. And Toxic said, on canvas is something so different. And Zero will better explain that than me, but you have time so you can prepare your job a lot. You have seen at the entrance of the exhibition, you are lucky, you can see some sketches. Always we were preparing drawings, and sometime during one day, 1 week, maximum 2 months in my studio to work and to find only a new link, a new complexification of letter, a new way of filling this letter, something new, a new style. And it's always a battle. And so if you see also the old paintings by the same guy, like Ramalzi, you have 10, 12 paintings from Ramalzi, each one is completely different of the other one. Each time you have to invent something new. I'm sure if you ask Zero to make another painting tomorrow, he will make something completely different. So this art is so rich. How do you think about it, Zero?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you ask me to paint something else, it would definitely be something different because I think my style of painting is quite gestural and quite, say, impromptu. You know, very random in its nature and very raw. So I cannot even replicate my own drawings or my own paintings because, you know, I prefer to keep it that way.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to replicate the same paintings.
Sorry, that's the kind of English. I look for mannerism. Mannerism?
The mannerism, yes.
Yeah, there's no mannerism in graffiti. Also something maybe you can state that is so different. Constate. Hein? Constater, say. State. Thank you. Joe. Thank you, Joe. Nice translator, good help for me. So you just state that on the vintage painting, you have just few colors, few primary colors. So this art also has changed because at the origin, the spray can, when it arrives on the drugstore in New York in during the 70s, was not made like a tool for painting. It was just a domestic tool. So there were 4, 5, 6 colors maximum. Now, for example, Montana, the famous Spanish spray can. You use Montana?
I use the Spanish Montana, there's German Montana.
And Benson, no? And no? Just Montana.
Montana and industrial brand Pilox.
It's funny to think that the most famous artists work with Spanish spray can. You cannot imagine that. In Montana now, you have more than 1,000 colors. So imagine, because we have spoken a lot about the technique of the spray can, which needs 5 years before to be mastered by some painter. But also the problem that you cannot mix the color or obtain other colors with the first. We cannot be able to obtain green with yellow or blue. The color cannot be mixed. It's the first time in the art story you cannot mix the colors and create some more colors. So the first painting you have seen by Revolt, by 5, 6 colors. And also now the cap is different because the cap, maybe Zero explain that.
I mean, especially with the technology that they have now. Now we have professional spray paints like Montana for painters. It's acrylic based. As to when I started, we're using industrial. It's like Rust-Oleum, but the Singapore version, we had a few colors. It was solvent based, so it smelled bad, it drips. But we were using it with just the stock cap, whatever cap that comes with the spray can. But now we pretty much have an array of caps or nozzles which kind of like mimics different size of brushes, from skinny to fat. There's New York fat. There's character caps, there's, mediums, medium. So any sizes, there's calligraphy caps now. You can switch the caps to the side and then, and then you can use it as a calligraphy cap. And then I think for a lot of the the Asian spray cans are male valve systems. And then even if we have friends who gave us like the European caps, we can't use them because the European nozzles are male valves, and then the Singaporean, the Asian cans are male. So it's like two sticks trying to join, So I don't know how we got to that male and female thing. So we had to make adapters. I mean, when you're talking about mixing colors, we actually tried to mix colors in 2 cans. We made a straw, a straw from another nozzle. And we we wanted to have army green because there was no such color. And we actually put one of the half-empty spray can into the fridge. So it has lesser, it makes it less pressurized. And then we put a new can which has higher pressure, and then we put it in between this straw and then try and squeeze it in. I mean, yes, it came out army green, but only for a short while. So we gave up. So we just used whatever colors that we had. So I think it allowed us to have that creativity, because we can't mix colors, So we just use pretty much whatever is there. If it's, if we are broke, we'll use a $2 can. If we are worse than broke, we'll pick up like half empty or 3/4 cans that people throw away and try and make do with whatever we can. But I think nowadays, a lot of the younger generation of graffiti artists, are very, I would say, it's good for them. They have a lot of colors, 1,000 over colors from Montana. We have different brands from different parts of the world. Even Indonesia has their own cans now, called Rima. Singapore, we have Zenith cans, which you produce in China. But of course, they are all acrylic based, so it's definitely more opaque in the colors. I think walking through this exhibition really made me respect, especially the legends of the graffiti art scene. They pretty much use whatever cans they have. I mean, if you look at the context of visual aesthetics now, technically, it's very different. I think because we have the proper tools, where else back then they were just using Rust-Oleum, they're just using Krylon, and they just, using the only cap that they have, and they're just spray painting. And I think at times we're using body spray can nozzles from Gatsby. If you go to Mustafa a few years ago, Mustafa Center or shopping centers, and you buy a body spray and there's no nozzle, it's probably our fault. And because we had to test out, I think Gatsby has the thinnest lines, so we'll pick all this, like, oh, new caps, and Yeah, but now we have a lot of caps and we take it for granted.
Yeah, and the origin made their caps themselves.
Yeah.
Like origin with a knife.
Yeah.
They cut it.
Just to cut, to have a calligraphy cap, you have to
Yes.
like cut the nozzle so that you get a slit and then it comes out as a slit. I think in fact I have a lot of
Show
caps
me,
in my
you have
bag.
it?
I hope so.
How many spray can in your bag always? 5, 6?
Huh?
Your caps.
Yeah.
Let me show.
It's pretty much our...
What is the preferred by the police? Which one the police prefers?
The police, okay, I think this is used for, this is what we call the Japanese Scotch caps. This is our favorite caps when we use for our local Asian cans. It's extinct now, it's very hard to get. I don't know why the Japanese stopped manufacturing it. And these are the basic caps that you get from the cans, Montana cans. And of course, you can see the different sizes, the different usage for the caps. And this is that adapter that I was talking to you about. Now they sell adapters to fit into the Asian cans, and then you can use the European cap, so it makes it a female valve. Back then we had to, a stick on a stick doesn't work, so we're like, okay. So we use straws, other parts of the caps to make adapters. So it gave us that space to be creative. This is the original stock cap from the Pilox Nippon. Yeah, this one. So we would actually cut this part of the valve to make the adapters so that we can use the European caps. Because the European caps, even if you import it to Singapore, they sell it like 5 pieces for $10, But when I was in Europe, they sell it like candy in a big jar, and I go like, I think my first time in Europe, I was in Amsterdam, right?
Yes.
I actually flew back to Singapore with 30 cans of spray paint in my bag. I threw away my clothes. I bought a smaller bag, and I brought in like 30 cans of spray paints from this size all the way into this size, because I was like a child in a toy store, in a candy store, and I saw all these cans in this graffiti store in Amsterdam, and I was like, oh my God. And when I remember, I was taking a risk, bringing that much spray can onto the plane, and you expected to be confiscated. I passed Schiphol and I reached Singapore, and I saw my luggage come out. Then I shake my bag, like, it sounds like spray can. And I go, yes, it went through. And so, when I went through the Singapore customs, they checked my bag and they saw like, they put it in the x-ray, and then their eyes just went like, and then they asked me to open my bag, and they saw like 30 spray cans in various sizes, from the Ultimo, which is this huge, this big, and then to the smallest one. And then they asked me, what do you do? I said, I'm a graffiti artist. Then they just went like, okay. And then I was like, and this is Singapore, and we're like, I have 30 spray cans in my bag. They're going to charge me tax. And I goes like, oh, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm a graffiti artist. And they go like, okay, right. Straight from a 12-hour flight, I went down and I went straight to painting.
And so you work also out of Singapore?
We do travel around, especially in Southeast Asia and Indonesia, because we have a lot of friends, like Darbot is our friends, Alex, Gong.
It's a little community, everybody knows everybody?
Yeah, pretty much in Southeast Asia we know each other, because also my collective, we are doing this research and documentation of graffiti art and street art practices in Southeast Asia. We intend to someday publish a book that talks about the practices of graffiti in Southeast Asia, in the context of Southeast Asian cities like Manila, Jakarta, Yogyakarta, Singapore, because we are inspired by what's happening in New York and what happens. But of course, New York is New York, and New York is very different from Paris. They have very different contexts. So we want people to understand also the historical and the contextual nature of what we do in Southeast Asia, because it's so different.
And you don't like to meet the first guy. Maybe if you come in Paris, you can discuss with Taxi, you can discuss with Quick, with Scene. And you never discuss with them?
No, I mean, I got a chance to talk to Lazou,
yes.
Congo, and the rest of the Mac crew.
Lazou, Congo are French guys. A strange name, but French guy. It's a Frugger's name.
I mean, yeah.
Yes, you have Lazou. Lazou is a painting you can't see at the center of his wall with a baby, because Lazou is a figurative guy. I don't know in Singapore, but in Europe, a lot of times the artists don't work alone, but in a crew. And in a crew, minimum, there are 3 different artists. And each artist is more able in figuration, another one for the letters, or character, for same thing.
Yeah.
And so in the Cosmopolitan crew, there is Lazou, Gilbert, Congo. Congo is arrived yesterday in Singapore. Each one has his own quality, and Lazou is a figurative guy of a crew.
It's like mode 2, right?
Yes, like mode 2. You know, we have only one English artist in all this exhibition. His name is Mode 2, yes, because at the origin, quite all of them were from New York. They came from Puerto Rico, Lady Pink from Equatorial, Mode 2 from England, and Bando was from New York and Paris. So it's a mix. But I have lost what I wanted to ask you. Yes, your inspiration from the first movement between figuration, abstraction. Sometimes you're happy to see old vintage paintings like from Taxi Ramelzi, or your inspiration is just with the new magazine, with the new artist in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Jakarta, around of your country, or is it for you universal research and you want to make a universal battle of graffiti? The battle is more with your other friend of a crew in Singapore, or you consider you participate to a universal battle?
I think for now, for the documentation itself, we're focusing on Southeast Asia, and we want to see the rise of the Southeast Asian graffiti style, and also the artists as well. And then of course, we always go back to the older times, to the 70s, and look at it as a point of reference to our practice. Because I remember when we started, internet was really bad, so whatever we could get was from like old VCR tapes of Style Wars. We got like Style Wars from don't know where, and like old magazines. There wasn't any. Now I think a lot of the kids can just Google and put in Futura or Scene, and it goes like all these visuals start coming out. Back then, we really had to do a lot of research, as to why we love graffiti. Even though we just see bits of it everywhere. I mean, my first time taking the plane was when I was in the army, when I was in the military service. That was in 2000. And then when I first traveled to Australia, then I saw my first tag outside of Singapore. And then I went to Europe, and I see all these things around me, and it's so different. It gives you a better insight as to the roots of graffiti. Especially Paris is known as the New York. After New York, the next big scene was Paris. And then so going to Paris and then meeting all these guys from Paris, and then me and Ans, another one, we became part of this mural exhibition called Fait Salmon. There's hip-hop, Paris hip-hop, and then we get to meet a lot of the legends like Ticket, Cantu, from all these older guys, and then they're like old geezers, and it was such an eye-opening thing. Because to me, some people look at Picasso, but these are our Picassos, these are our masters, and they brought the whole idea of graffiti out. I think the fundamental of graffiti is that letting the world know that you exist. It starts from the really basic tag, right?
And what is the particular style of Singapore?
Singapore, when it started out, it was a lot of letters.
Letters?
A lot of letters, and even the figurative style was a very, very hip-hop, like Cantu. A lot of them followed a Cantu style of hip-hop characters. Then when my crew came in, we started to do more figurative, more graphic style. So we brought in a new style, which...
You say that, but when I see the ants painting, there's not too much letters.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not able to read it.
Or you can't read his letters.
No, but it's not a figure of dragon
yes.
with a beer with tray.
Yeah,
with
because that's his. Trace was a writer. He was all letters. So he moved on from letters to doing something with stencils, some street installations.
And you?
And myself, at first I did a lot of characters, and then I studied letters later, and then I try and incorporate. But when it comes to tagging, it's always letters first, because it was the easiest, mode of communication, especially when you tag your signature, your artist signature. That's the most important for all artists. And we call it tag, and I think that's what we leave most of the times. Not in Singapore. Sometimes, if you can find it, just enjoy it on your own. Don't tell anyone else about it.
Okay. Now we are ready to make a short tour of the exhibition. But before, if you have some question.
Yeah, can we invite questions from the floor, please?
Sure. We are too good. You know everything now. You are.
I mean, if you have any questions, especially with regards to Singapore and the scene here in Singapore, don't be shy. Feel free to ask. Yes.
Is there a rough gauge of how many graffiti writers or artists we have in Singapore?
Here in Singapore, wow.
Is there a way to?
Maximum, maybe about 100. Maximum. Give and take. Sometimes they start and then they leave and then a new one takes over. It's always like that. Personally, for me, I've been around for 12, 13 years. And then some of the older guys who are still active, they've been around for almost 20 years. Yeah. Since 1995, yeah.
So in 1995, how many?
1995, I would say maybe about 4 or 5. Yeah, I think they came from, I think a lot of us, we started skateboarding first. And then hip-hop music, and then they saw all the old hip-hop movies from the Bronx and everything, and you saw graffiti in the background, and you got interested. And I think that's how it was for me as well, from the magazines and all. So it's not really a big, I think mainly because it's quite competitive, the battle. We talk about the battle on the streets, battle for space. Back then if we painted and then someone else paints over us, we probably just paint over again and paint over us. It becomes like a battle. Of course here we don't stab people or shoot someone, it's not worth it. But of course in context of that, I think there are people who's been arrested quite a few times. There are a few ends.
You know.
No, I run away. I'm very small and fast. I'm like a ninja. But now, I don't even need to run. I can run 10,000 kilometers to Paris. I fly back to Singapore. I still get caught. The nature of it has changed because of CCTVs, and people holding smartphones. You're painting in the dark and someone at the back you don't see. You don't even need CCTV anymore because everyone has a smartphone and then becomes evidence against you. So if I run away now, the police will just knock on my door a few days later. So they won't need to run away, run after me and waste their breath after they just go that's what happened to Samantha from my collective, from my crew, and also Ants. Ants got arrested when he flew back from Melbourne in the airport. So that's what happened to him. Yeah, so that's how it is in Singapore.
I read somewhere in the internet, which I'm not too sure if it's true, that graffiti art didn't quite take on in Thailand. Is there a reason
In Thailand, when I was in Thailand in early 2000, I didn't see a lot of graffiti. I started pasting stuff and reading stuff. There was only a few graffiti murals that caught my attention in Thailand. I think they were even Thai artists, one ABC. And then slowly it started to, when it became more open, there's a lot of people coming in, tourists, I think it started to come. Same with Jakarta. The origins of graffiti in Jakarta it came from an American guy from American school. He didn't do really good graffiti, but he brought the idea of it there, and then the kids started following. He's still around there. Lucen. If you go to Jakarta, his name is Lucen. He's still there. He's hanging out with some of the pioneers of the Jakarta scene.
I'm just wondering if there's any dialogue with their culture.
I think the culture of society is actually. I think mainly because Asians are very conservative. Even in Japan, it's the same. Some parts of the country do not have graffiti because of nature. Yes, nature is being very conservative. We like to keep it, in to ourselves. We fear of disrespecting, the society. So only later on then it started. But I think in countries like Jakarta, cities like Jogja, it started earlier because Jogja is the capital of art in Indonesia itself. Yeah. So I think it's got something to do with the nature of Asians, being conservative, being a bit more, quiet, more, close out in our nature. But later on, when we take off our hats, we are as crazy as the French as well.
So in each country, graffiti is different, but the source is the same, and the artists always see and read the same thing, the same movie, Star Wars. You have an extract of Star Wars made by Richard also, and Richard Fong. His book, Art and Subway Art with Martha Cooper, is the most well-sold art book in the world. Imagine. So it's a very, very important book. If you have to buy this book, Subway Art and Spoken Art. And Henri Chalfon, I congratulate him. He's a very nice guy and he's a good favor of my collection. I thank him because I've been successful to make a connection with American artists by Henri Chalfon. Henri Chalfon, that's a joke. He was mayor of classic Greek at Stanford. So imagine, because all you know about the graffiti is wrong, and also every people working or making pictures or writing books are from a good level, a lot of times bourgeois and the best, les meilleures origines. So before you read this book, you can see the exhibition. And it's a pleasure for me to be with Zero, so Zero can also with Hans, with the writing of Hans. Thank you a lot to be here. And so with a great team of Singapore, we are all, I think, able to explain with the picture and with paintings. It's more easy to explain the origin and the different steps of this movement. Thank you. Not another question before? So we can go.
May I thank our panelists for this afternoon. Thank you very much, Alain Dominique.
Thank you.
Very much, Zero, for this afternoon's discussion. Alain Dominique is now willing to lead, or is anxious to, wants very much to, lead a curatorial tour, which will start at that end. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for this.
Thank you.